The role of the child. The role of the child. In this very terse lecture, we're going to explore the role of the child. What responsibility does the child have within a marital context? In this very short lecture, again, we're going to define the role, provide evidence from the scriptures of the existence of that responsibility, and explain the reason that the responsibility attributed to the role exists. And so to quickly define role, again, a role is an official name with its corresponding set of responsibilities. A role is an official name with its corresponding set of responsibilities, like a coach or a team captain or a doctor, so forth and so on. And a child is the offspring of a couple, the role of a child. Now, the responsibility that the child has is one within the household, and that is obedience. And obedience simply means doing what one is told. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1, the Bible says, "Oh, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right." And again in Colossians chapter 3, verse 20, he says, "Children, obey your parents in everything, for this is pleasing to the Lord." And so the responsibility that the child has in the role of a child, of course, is to be obedient to the parents. The reason for this, again, is the law of theomimicry, and that is a principle or the truth that man must imitate God in all things. Christ himself is an obedient son. Of course, Jesus is God, and Jesus, when he came in the form of a man, and still to this day in his glorified state, is an obedient son to his Father. And since Christ, playing the role of the Son of God, is an obedient son, human beings who play the role of sons to their human parents should be obedient children in imitating Christ, who is the Son of God. In other words, whatever role, the role that Jesus plays as a son is a pattern for all human beings who play roles as children. So however Jesus functions as a child to his Father is how all human beings should function as children to their Father, because he's the perfect example. See, Matthew chapter 26, verse 39, the Bible says, "And he," speaking of Jesus, "went a little beyond them and fell on his face and prayed, saying, My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." And so what Jesus is doing here is that he's subverting his will to the will of the Father. And lastly, in John chapter 6, verse 39, the Bible says, "For I have come," this is Jesus speaking, "down from heaven, not to do my own will." So he's acknowledging, recognizing that he has a will of his own. But he says, "I have not come to do my own will, but the will of him," speaking of the Father, "who sent me." The role of the child is simple. It is obedience to the parents.